Hi, I'm Carl Franklin. In this episode of the .NET Show, I'll walk you through the different ways you can build MAUI apps for iOS and macOS. While it's relatively easy to build MAUI apps for Android, building for iOS and macOS requires more planets to be aligned. Keeping your devices and accounts up to date requires constant care and feeding, and there's a few more issues you may need to overcome as well. Building MAUI apps for iOS and macOS is coming right up on the .NET Show. So the first thing you want to do is on your Windows machine, you want to make sure you have the latest updates. I see I have updates to install now, so I'm going to do that. Next, run the Visual Studio installer and make sure you have the latest version of the Visual Studio 2022 preview. And I see that there's an update available, so I'm going to update it. Now, if you're installing Visual Studio Preview for the first time, you want to make sure mobile development with .NET is checked off and that .NET MAUI is also selected. Okay, this is a portion of my gigantic local desktop machine. And before we get into the rest of this, I want to give you a couple of tips for what to do if Windows does not recognize your iPhone. The first thing you need to do is make sure your iPhone is up to date. Get the latest OS installed. You also want to download the latest iTunes. Make sure that's installed. And if all that doesn't work, and when you plug it in, you don't get the "Trust this computer" message on your iOS device, then here's some good things to try. First of all, go to the Control Panel, Programs and Features. Look for Apple Mobile Device Support. Right-click and select Repair. Now, next to that should be Apple Software Update. Right-click, select Repair. Now go look for iTunes, right-click, select Repair. After all that, you're going to want to restart. Now, when you come back and you plug it in, you might get this weird situation in which you plug in your iPhone and it shows up for a second, it's connected, and then it goes away for a second, it's not connected, and then it shows up again, and then it goes away again, and it goes in this endless cycle. Well, I figured out how to fix that too. If you go to Device Manager, scroll down to Universal Serial Bus Devices, and you see this Apple Mobile USB device, you can update the driver and search automatically, and if it doesn't find it, you can browse My Computer for drivers and pick from a list. There it is, and go ahead and do that. Now, another thing you can do is click the USB controllers above that and just select these generic USB hubs one at a time. Right-click, Properties, go to Power Management, and uncheck this box. Allow the computer to turn off this device to save power. In Windows 11, at least, this is a big pain in the butt. It's on by default, and that's the cause of your USB devices going on and off and on and off and on and off. Do that for all of the USB hubs, and anything that has that Power Management tab, do it for that. You're welcome. Now that I've gone through that, I should be able to select iPhone by dropping down iOS local devices and checking off iPhone. Now it's going to ask me to set up Hot Restart. This is where you have to have your team set up in your Apple developer account. So you want to go to developer.apple.com, log in, go to your account, and make sure that there's no big red boxes here telling you that you either haven't paid or haven't agreed to the latest developer agreement. Then you should be able to follow through to completion and debug your app on your iPhone. All right, let's talk about whether I should use a real Mac or a virtual Mac to do building. So here's the story. If you have an extra Mac, like a Mac that is dedicated to doing builds, use that. Otherwise, I would recommend using this, Mac in Cloud. And the reason is that you're going to be installing beta versions of macOS and Xcode, and you really want to have a dedicated Mac just for building. I personally use my MacBook Pro for a lot of other things, and I really don't want to upgrade the OS to a beta version just to appease .NET. So if you're going to use Mac in Cloud, here's what I suggest. Go to Pricing, and this is the one that you want, Dedicated Server. Now I know it's a little bit more than these, but these guys, the pay-as-you-go and managed server, don't give you admin access. And that's what you want right here, full admin root access. So let's also talk about the different options when you sign up. It starts, yes, at $63.97, but here's what you get. First of all, you want to pick your location. That doesn't affect the price. But you want to get the latest operating system. You can choose your payment cycle. And you also want this, a dedicated Xcode VSTS Xamarin Build server. It's going to cost an extra $15. Your hard drive capacity, you're going to struggle at 120 gigs. I would make it 170 or even 220, especially if you're going to be downloading and installing a lot of software. If you accept the 120 gig default, you're going to be deleting files from your downloads folder and emptying the trash a lot. Now, I've found that 4 CPU cores is enough for my demos, but you might want a more powerful server. The same with RAM. More RAM, more better, but you pay for it. I also prefer using remote desktop. It's faster and you have more options. In terms of the network bandwidth speed, I found 100 megabits to be acceptable. But here's the thing, we are going to be using the network. And so if you have large projects that need to be transferred, you might want to just get the higher speed. But this is the minimum configuration that I would use. And now we're up to $119 a month. So this is my Mac in Cloud. And I've got the latest version of macOS Monterey, 12.2.1. I've also installed the latest Xcode beta, and I'll show you how to do that. Go to, again, developer.apple.com, go to Develop, and then Downloads. Now, here's what you want, beta software downloads. If you need to install a new OS, that'd be right here in Operating Systems, but go to Applications and install the latest Xcode beta. Go ahead and download it and install it. And then once you've installed it, you want to make sure to put it in your Applications folder. Right there, Xcode beta. And you know what? If you've never run it before, run it once. It's a good idea. Now the next thing you need to do is install .NET on the Mac. So in order to do that, we're going to go to .NET and then go to Download. Download the .NET SDK x64, just get the latest. That's downloading. Now once it's downloaded, you can go to Downloads and just double click on it and go through the prompts to install it. After you're done, you can move to the trash to save space. Now you can test it by running terminal. And if you don't know where that is, just go up here to the Launchpad and type terminal. Now type .NET and you'll see that .NET has been installed. And here's a tip with terminal. I found that with Mac in Cloud and the terminal, sometimes if I copy and paste things from the web, I get all sorts of weird characters. So therefore, I keep a notepad open that I can use as a buffer. Copy from the web to notepad, and then copy from notepad in here. So I'm going to be doing a lot of that. Let me close these windows. All right, next, we need to install MAUI. And we're going to do that with this command right here. Sudo .NET workload install MAUI. Now it's going to ask you for your system password. Your system password was sent to you in an email by Mac in Cloud. All right, so now let's go back to our Windows machine and run Visual Studio Preview. So I'm going to create a new MAUI app, not a MAUI Blazor app. I guess you could do either, right? But I'll just do a .NET MAUI app, and I'll call it Mac Test App. So the first thing I want to do is change this hello world to be something different so we can recognize that this is a modified template. So I'm going to say, Carl says hi. Now up top here, we're just going to pick Windows for our framework, just so we can run this guy locally without any blah-de-blah. And there we go. Now, if you're curious about how to do this on Android, go back and watch episode 11 of the .NET show, where I show you how to do MAUI apps in a VM, and I cover Android. But we're here to talk about iOS. Now, we can connect to the Mac and Cloud server up here, Pair to Mac, and that will most likely work fine with the simulator. But if you want to test macOS, you're going to have to run it on this machine, your Mac. So in order to do that, we're going to save this project to GitHub. You need a GitHub account. And then we're going to clone the project on the Mac, and using the command line, we can build it for iOS and use the simulator on the Mac, and we can build it for macOS on the Mac. And I like that better because the whole pair to Mac thing sometimes works, sometimes it doesn't. You might get lucky, you might not. I find it's more steps and it's more complex than just going to the Mac and trying it yourself. But let's give it a shot. I'm going to click Pair to Mac, and here's my Mac and Cloud. Now I've already set this up with the username and password and all that stuff, so. All right, so that's connected. Now we can drop this down and select iOS simulators, and let's just pick an iPhone 11. Let's see what happens. All right, here's our simulator, and you can see it's 5:02 p.m. Let's see how long this takes. Well, it's now 5:07, 5 minutes later, and still nothing. So, what do? There isn't really anything you can do because Visual Studio tells you that there's no issue. Look at build output, launching Mac test app on iPhone 11, iOS, blah, blah, blah. Build succeeded, and yet nothing. And now we're going to go to Git changes, and I'm going to create a Git repository. Now, if you haven't done this before with your GitHub account, it's pretty simple to connect your GitHub account. It already knows my GitHub account and all that stuff, and I'm going to make a private repository. You can see that here, right? Private by default. It's going to be called Mac Test App, and I'm just going to go ahead and create my repo. There we go. Now everything's pushed up there. Now let's go to GitHub, and I'm logged in as me, and now I can see that Mac Test App right there. Now, here's the thing. I can't just take this and clone it on my Mac and Cloud Mac because it's a private repository. But what I can do is use a token. So check this out. I'm going to go up to my profile, go to Settings, go down to the bottom and select Developer Settings, Personal Access Tokens. So in Personal Access Tokens, we can generate a new token. And I'm just going to use, put a note here that says, for Mac in Cloud. Expires 30 days. I want full control of my private repositories. And I don't think I want anything else. So let's generate a token. Here it is. I'm going to copy that and put it in a safe place. Namely, Notepad. Okay, now I'm going to go back to my repo and grab that git clone URL. I'm going to go to code and copy the clone URL. Now we go back to the Mac And I'm going to open up the terminal again in my repos folder, which I've just created. And I'm going to say git clone and then paste that URL. Now it's going to ask me for my GitHub username. And the password, I'm going to paste that personal access token from Notepad. Boom, done. So now I can go CD, Mac, press tab. There it is. And there's my code. Now this is the coolest thing. I can just give this command right here to test it against iOS. .NET build -t:/run space -f space net 6.0 -iOS. And less than 1 minute later, boom, there it is. Carl says hi. Now, what happens if I want to update, right? Because the cycle has to be quick. So let's update it. Let's go back to my Visual Studio VM. And let's say, let's do this. Save it. Make a commit. Changed label. Commit all. Push it to my repo. There it is. Now, back in the Mac world, we do this. Git fetch origin and then git reset -- hard space origin / master, because that's the branch. And there you go. Now let's do our build and run on iOS again. Boom, new version. And it only took a minute. Now let's have some fun. Let's run this on the Mac. .NET build -t run -f net 6.0 Mac Catalyst. There it is, a native Mac OS app. And it only took 30 seconds to refresh from the repo, build, run. That is powerful. And that is my demo today. Thanks for watching. Thanks for watching. Please visit blazertrain.com and the .NETshow.com for more great content.